I think the big difference is that like they've ever since the Cleveland game, which was the starting was not the yeah, it was the start of the win streak, the Cleveland game.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that game was won, because they locked up the last few possessions. They won late. They got stops and got scores. And that's just constantly been a theme against the Lakers. The next game, Fox takes over in the fourth quarter, but still, it's late game locking it down. Golden State, I can't quite remember how that game ended, but they had to close that one. That's the Warriors. I can't remember how that, because we played them 3 times. I'm mixing them all
I
up. Do you remember
know.
what happened? What the
The
hell?
Warriors game, the last one.
Let me just click on one of our the recap.
I don't. Was it close? Did it come down to the wire? I don't
Dude, that
remember.
feels so long ago. That was over a week ago. But
Yeah. It was on a Sunday, right? Couple Sundays ago. It was Fox, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Fox, and that's what it's saying here. I guess that's what I wrote apparently.
I mean, it seems like every game this year, Fox is coming in the clutch. What was the score? Right? That's what I'm more interested in. Really,
the score was 122-115.
Okay, so I think they just got stopped towards the end. Sorry.
Yeah, they just kind of closed. They won in the end on a 12-2 run. So it's exactly what we're saying. I don't know why it took us a freaking minute to figure that one out, but and then Brooklyn, they didn't need to do that because they blew them out of the water.
Just blew them out.
San Antonio, the offense absolutely exploded, but still you had to be getting stops and whatnot to win that game. I don't actually think that they were necessarily getting that many stops. I think San Antonio still scored a good amount of points in the fourth quarter.
Because San Antonio had them.
They scored 30 points in the fourth quarter of that game. So
San Antonio did?
Yeah.
How many did the Kings score,
the Kings scored 41.
Yeah,
they just absolutely unloaded on them. So that's maybe not the best example of what I'm trying to point to here. But the Detroit game kind of was. Because obviously, I think Kevin Herter described it this way. He was like, they were hitting all their shots. You have to give them credit. Like, they were playing really well. And so the fact, like, our offense is so good, we were able to watch them play their best basketball, and we're, like, right there in it. Like, they were never down by more than, like, 6, 7, 8 points to the Pistons, I don't think. And they were in it the whole time. And then all they had to do was bear down in the end and get a few stops. And they did. They had, like, 7 stops in the last 4 or 5 minutes. And only gave up 3 points, I think. One of them being a free throw. And I don't know, man. It's just like, again, it's like kind of in reference to last season. That Detroit style game is kind of the type of game you would have seen late last year, post Sabonis trade. It's like, oh, this offense is kind of doing very well, but it's like, man, this team can't make a stop. And then they would have continued not making stops. But this team, in those last 4, 5, 6 minutes of the game, they're turning it around. They're coming together. Now, obviously, as Mike Brown always says, you want them to be able to do that for as close to 48 minutes as you can. And they did not come close to doing that against Detroit. They started out pretty well in the first 3 or 4 minutes, and then they closed out pretty well in the last 4 or 5 minutes. So everything else was just like, oh, gee. Detroit was just getting wide open lanes. They were getting good looks from 3. Everything was just terrible. But like you say, the offense kind of just kept them in it, and they ended up coming together in the end and actually getting that win. And I think that's been one of the major characteristics of this year's team so far. And if they can continue that, that's the sign of a very, very good team. Obviously, being able to do it for longer, being able to have a better defense that's in the top half of the league, because I think the Kings they're closer to the bottom third of the league. I think if they're definitely in the bottom half of the league defensively.
Yeah,
but you want to see that get better. That'd be the sign of a real good team. But you have to be honest, one of those badges on a really, really good team is being able to win in the last few possessions. That's and they're doing that. They've done that like 4 out of the last 6 wins on this streak. So that's been
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
When was the last time they did that?
It exactly. I mean, I would say the only time they didn't do that was against the Nets, really, because they just blew out the Nets, and it's been nice to see the Kings getting stops when they need to. Yeah, like their defense has been not the best, through the full game, but where we'd see last year, the last 16 years, they just the Kings just love to blow leads or just not get stops or whatever in the last few minutes. So it has been very refreshing to watch them get stops when it's needed, while keep scoring the rock to gain the lead or take the lead or whatever. It's something we're not used to seeing, and you're totally right. It puts us on track to being a good team. That's what good teams do.